Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar for Groundwater and Streams Seasonal Outlook. My name's Peter Clydesdale. I'm the Manager of Diversions at Goulburn Murray Water, and today we'll be looking at the seasonal outlook for groundwater and streams. Matt Petherbridge, our Groundwater and Streams Manager, will take us through that presentation. That'll be followed by a customer service update from our diversion service managers. In the east, it will be Steve Gimmel, and in the west, it will be Dale McGraw. And they will take you through an operational update and introduce you to their teams and give you an idea of who you need to contact in your particular area for assistance. So this is our first in a possible series of webinars going forward, so we'll be keen to understand whether we're providing the right information and timely information for you to manage your business going forward. So with that, I will pass it over to Matt, who will provide the latest water resource outlook.
Hi Noel, I'm Matt Petherbridge. I'm the Groundwater and Streams Manager at Goulburn Murray Water. So we manage more the technical side of having an understanding of groundwater within aquifers and also with unregulated surface water. So just to clarify what unreg surface water is, it's an unregged stream. It's a stream where the flows are not controlled by a dam. So G&W doesn't actively put water into it to manage flows. It's just natural run of the river. So we're going to start off with today a bit of a look at what we've experienced over the last 2-3 years, where we're at now, and what the sort of outlook looks like for this coming season. So since December 2017 to current, Victoria has experienced a very much below average rainfall. And we really felt that during 2018, 2019, where we had really dry summers and spring lead into the summer was quite dry too. But over the last 6 months, we've experienced average rainfall, which has been really good. And you would have seen that across northern Victoria. If you go ahead, Steve. We've had really good crops and really good cropping. So it's really helped and got that good soil moisture going into our summer period. So one thing I just want to put forward here too is all the data which I'm showing today is all public data. It's either on the Bureau of Meteorology website or on Goulburn Murray Water website. So it's very easy and accessible. Yep, Steve. So our current unregulated water resource position. So Goulburn Murray Water manages all of the northern Victoria, which is part of the Murray-Darling Basin. We've split our area up into west, central and east. That's more of a management process, but it encapsulates the major river systems within our area. So over to the west, the Loddon and Campaspe. Our small tributaries are currently going on suspension due to the reduced flows. So we haven't had a great deal, not enough rainfall to maintain those small streams, which is very normal coming into the summer season. And our larger tributaries are currently experiencing a reduction in flows. So with the smaller streams starting to dry up, that's gradually impacting on our larger streams. So with it, over the next month or so, restrictions will begin to be implemented on our larger streams, such as your Loddon and your Campaspe upstream of the storages. An example of this, Steve, this is the flows at the Campaspe River at Reedsdale. So this is directly above before it flows into Lake Eppalock. And what we can see is that in early November, coming out at the end of the spring, the flows have been reducing. And it got down to about 5 megs last week, and we had that bit of rainfall on the weekend, which helped prop it up a little bit, but it's currently going down, reducing at the moment. And that's what we're seeing across the Campaspe and Upper Loddon systems. In the central area, there's currently no restrictions on streams. We've had reasonable good rainfalls, which has maintained that base flow within our small tributaries. Apart from the Boosie Creek, which is in the Broken catchment, it's struggled a bit and the flows haven't just reduced enough that we've had to put it on suspension. The tributaries of the Goulburn above Seymour are beginning to recede but still have good flows. So this is your systems like your Acheron, Yea, King Parrot. We're still seeing good flows within those unregged tributaries that feed into the Goulburn. But downstream the tributaries downstream of Seymour, such as Sunday Creek, Seven Creeks, Hughes Creek, we're starting to see they're very close to restrictions. They're reducing a reasonable, quite a downward rate, and we'll be putting in restrictions on them in the near future. And then over to the east, our Ovens, Kiewa, Upper Murray. So the majority of streams have no restrictions. We've still got good, strong flows there. The small systems are still flowing quite well, and hopefully that'll go into the January, February mark. This is the flows at so the Ovens River at Myrtleford. So this is where the Ovens is still unregged before the Buffalo River flows into it, which is part of our reg system. And while you can see a reduction in flows here, we've still got over, at a lowest point, over 600 megs going past Myrtleford. So restriction levels within this area do not actually come into enforce until it reaches 100 megs. So we're hoping with flows like this, we won't have to implement any restrictions until January, February, but hopefully we'll get a bit of rainfall in there, which will just top it up that bit more, such as you can see there in the last week where we had that reasonable bit of rainfall on the weekend. And Steve? So as part of that, the unregged view of the world I've just talked about, I spoke about restrictions and suspensions and rosters. And so this is how we manage the equitable management of flows across all our users. So the use of water in unregulated catchments is managed through take and use licensing and our local management rules. The local management rules, they document the rules for applying restrictions and rosters. They manage the passing flow requirements, so how much water is going past a certain point within a catchment, and our trading zones and our management objectives. So each creek or system that we have has different sort of objectives, whether it's environmental, recreational, things like that. So what flows do we need to be able to maintain that? And of course, we also have the priority supply, where domestic and stockholders always have access to the stream. So they do not go on roster restrictions. So they're priority licenses. So these local management rules, these have been completed across all our major basins in Northern Victoria. And overall, there is over 93 separate local management rule documents, which is quite a few. But when you think across the whole of Northern Victoria, in the amount of streams and small creeks that we manage, there's always going to be quite a few when we have that management down to that catchment scale. So by implementing rosters and restrictions, GMW is putting in place a system that allows for the equitable sharing of the diminishing water resource. So just making sure that everybody has equal access. As part of this, GMW is required to let you know about changes to restrictions in writing. So under the current Water Act, administrative law, we still have to notify all our licence holders by letter that they're going onto restriction or roster. But this can mean that there are delays between notifications. As you know, our mail system is a bit slower than what it used to be. So if there is a significant period of time between restrictions, there is a potential for customers to not be aware of what level of restriction their stream is on. This was highlighted the need for GMW to provide a system where customers are able to simply check the status of their streams restrictions more regularly. So yes, we still have to notify you by letter, but we want to make a system that you can check up whenever you want to see what level of restriction you're on. And we do this through our GMW website. So we've got a page on here, which is within our diversions section and then rosters and restrictions. And what it is an interactive map where you can click on west, central and east, and it brings up all the streams in each of those which are on restriction. Then if you want to go just, the stream you're on, such as the example here is Happy Valley Creek, there's a drop-down menu. You can choose what stream you want, and it'll bring up what level of restriction your license is under at the moment, whether it's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or a full suspension. This is updated as we put streams on and off restrictions. So it's the most up-to-date source that you can have for what level of restriction you're on. So the links are on here, one for the local management rules and one for our roster and restrictions page. Now we'll have a look at the groundwater areas. So this is becoming a widely utilised resource within Northern Victoria. And 10, 15 years ago, groundwater was quite often seen as the backup supply. You had your reg water, you had your unreg water, then you had your groundwater that you pumped out when it was really dry and you couldn't access the creek or river. So that's changing now. So across Northern Victoria, we manage 17 separate groundwater management units, each of them with their own rules and allocations and trading. So looking at groundwater levels in management. So groundwater levels vary across Northern Victoria due to our different hydrogeological environments, usage and recharge. So we have shallow aquifers that are 5, 10, 20 metres below the surface. This is often accessed more by domestic stock users. And then we have our larger aquifer systems, which are 80 to 150 metres below the surface. So they really range in depths, volumes that you can pump, so from half a meg a day up to 20 meg a day in some areas. So our shallow systems, they have a greater relationship to the climate. So if we get heavy rainfall, these systems get recharged quite quick, but if we have a dry period, the levels start dropping very quickly too. The majority of Northern Victoria is covered by the groundwater management plans that I discussed before. We've got 17 of these. And the groundwater allocations in several areas ensure groundwater levels are managed. So we have areas where there's large-scale pumping where we have to manage access if the levels start dropping too much. And these allocations are currently enforced in the lower capacity water supply protection area. They have a current allocation of 75%. Our Katunga water supply protection area, so north of Shep up to the Murray, they currently have a 70% allocation for the 2021 season. And within the Loddon Highlands water supply protection area, so this is up around Newland, areas like that, Dean, we have a number of trading zones, but we do have one trading zone on 75%. And that's just to manage levels so that domestic stockholders can still access water, and also to make sure that there's water into the future for our customers. In our management areas, if you're ever interested, we report on these annually. 4 of our major areas we report to the Minister directly, but even our smaller areas, we have an annual newsletter that we place on our website to show people what's happening in those areas, how water levels are going, what's the trading environment that's going. Thanks, Steve. So how we manage, part of our management of groundwater is we have to have an understanding of what the water levels are and what's actually impacting on them. Is it the climate? Is it the usage? So across Northern Victoria, we manage close to 1,200 state observation bores. So these are bores primarily for monitoring. This is an example of one at the Newland, where they're currently on an allocation. And what it's showing is above 535 metres. So that's AHD. It's actually only about 25 metres below the surface. But once it drops below that 535, then we have the allocations kick in. So things got quite low during the Millennium Drought, as you can see there. Then in 2010-11, we had really good rainfalls, well above average. And then we've had a gradual reduction over time. Majority of this we're finding isn't in regard to usage, it's more in regard to climate. This is a basalt system. But one good thing we're starting to see here is groundwater levels are starting to recover. And with that good spring rainfall that we had this year, we're seeing good recoveries in that system. So potentially, hopefully, we'll get above 100% next year. Steve? This is another example. This is in the central area up near King Lake. So this is a bedrock system. And what this shows is that the water levels aren't impacted by usage. We call it diurnaling, where it goes up and down. This one's about 3 to 5 metres per year, which is purely climate related. So during the winter, it rises with a higher rainfall, and then during the summer, you get that gradual. So we keep monitoring on this to make sure that there isn't future impacts for the environment through usage. Next one, Steve. And then this is over in our oven system. So the lower ovens, north of Wangaratta, we have quite a large deep lead system, which is around about 100 millimetres below the surface. And we're starting to see increased usage from irrigators up there. So this is one we keep a close eye on. But what it's showing is that during the late 90s, we had quite significant rainfall events during the early 90s, which is about where it peaked at around about the 9.5 metres below the surface. During the Millennium Drought, one really good thing about this system is we didn't see that high level impact that we saw in other areas. So it's showing that it's really sustainable, that aquifer system. And what we're starting to see now is usage is having a little impact, but the water levels are so high at 10 metres, we still have that good head above pumps. So it's still working for our customers and our domestic stock licence holders. Steve. And this is an example of where pumping really does impact on those water levels and what the importance of recharge is. So as you can see, back prior to 1990s, early 90s, pumping didn't really have an impact on that deep lead system in Katunga. The main reason for that was there wasn't a great deal of pumping. Then coming into the late 90s, things started to dry up. You'd remember 97 was really where it started to click in. And then during the Millennium Drought, where people didn't have access to their regulated water, their water shares, all of a sudden groundwater became the sole supply for some users. And we started to see that heavy usage, as you can see there, where it goes up and down each year. In the Millennium Drought is where it sort of peaked out, and allocations were implemented within that time, and they had 70% allocation. Come 2010-11, again we saw that high level recharge, one because of high rainfall, but also because usage reduced from the groundwater system. All of a sudden we had allocations in our regulated system again. This travelled along quite well, apart from until the last 2-3 years where we started to see those reduced allocations again and the increased usage. But hopefully with the high spring rainfalls that we had this year, there was some reduced usage, and we're hoping to see that start to rise again. But allocations kicked in last year, so all licence holders are on 70% again, and hopefully that'll get that water levels back up a bit higher. Thanks, Steve. So looking forward, what are we expecting over the next few months? So the Bureau Met, they do a lot of modelling, as you know, and they're looking at that for the next month or for all of December. Probably Northern Victoria is going to experience more of that median chance of rainfall, so average, close to average rainfall. So this is still good. Average rainfall, or a chance of exceeding median rainfall is good. It's when we see where it starts to get into that red, where the chance of exceeding starts to really reduce. So we're still comfortable with this. But then looking into the next 3 months, we're seeing a higher chance of above median rainfall. Next one, Steve. So we're looking around that 60-65% of exceeding that median rainfall. So this is a really good sign coming into our summer months where things are generally dry. If we get this sort of rainfall, that'll help a lot of our farmers maintain that soil moisture and hopefully reduce some of that irrigation that they have to do or trade in water to be able to manage their farms. So we're seeing this as a good thing, and let's hope it comes through. The Bureau Met modelling can sometimes be a bit skewish. But we're going to have the best data that we can use at the time. Thanks, Steve. So this is some extra modelling that the Bureau Met's currently undertaking in its regards to our unregged stream flows, and sort of modelling of or predicting what chance of above average rainfall will we get over the next 3 months or next 2 months. And what we're seeing here is this is the Loddon River before it flows into Cancurran Reservoir. And what it's saying is that the forecast rainfall is going to be below the median flows, so below average with the probability. So they predict this by taking into account the forecast rainfall and then using the soil moisture in the area and how much runoff they will believe will come off from that from the catchment. So if you have a real dry soil moisture, then you're going to have reduced runoff. But if you have quite wet soil moisture, then you've got a high probability of runoff coming into our systems. So over in the west, they're predicting below median, exceeding the median. In our central area, next one, Steve. So this is the Acheron River at Taggart. This flows into the Goulburn just below Lake Eildon. And what the prediction here is that where the modelling shows it's most likely going to hit sort of average flows going down the Acheron River. So this is good for that area. It means we'll have maintained good flows and probably reduce chance of restrictions or suspensions. So this is good for that central area. And then we go up into the east and we've got the Ovens River at Bright. What this is saying is soil moisture up there is currently quite wet. The prediction for rainfall is above average. So what they're saying is there's a median chance of exceeding higher than average flows. So this is really good for that northeast area. Next one, Steve. So, Goulburn Water's role, and also my team, Groundwater and Streams, our principal aim as part of all our management is sustainable management is our objective. So when we review licence applications for either groundwater or unreg, or when we're managing restrictions or suspensions, it's all about the sustainable management and equitable access for all of our customers. And from that, I will hand you over to Stephen Gemmell, our Manager of Diversions Coordinator in the East. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, g'day, Noel. My name's Steve Gemmell. I'm the Diversion Services Manager for the Eastern region of Goulburn Murray Water. So my team's responsible for the diversions function, which includes, amongst other things, surface water and groundwater licensing, works on waterway and bore construction licensing, ensuring equitable access to the water resource, and various compliance activities in the Eastern region. So the Eastern region covers the Murray catchment pretty much from the top down to the Goulburn River confluence, just upstream of Echuca, the Midder, Kiewa, Ovens and King catchments, the Broken catchment, and the Goulburn catchment down to the sort of Yea, Alexandra type area. And given Goulburn Murray Water has recently undergone some organisational change, Noel, we just thought today would be an opportune time to provide an update on who our people are and the areas they're responsible for. So in regards to the East team, and starting from east to west, in Zone 1A we have Anthony Brown. Anthony's responsible for the Midder River below Dartmouth and any streams entering the Midder, the Upper Murray River above Lake Hume and Tribs. He's also responsible for Dartmouth Dam, Lake Hume and the Upper Murray Groundwater Management Area. We then have Steve Lawless in Zone 2. Steve's responsible for the Murray River below Lake Hume to Yarrawonga, including Lake Mulwala, and he's also responsible for the Kiewa River and tributaries, the Kiewa Groundwater Management Area, and the Murray Zone within the Lower Ovens Groundwater Management Area. We also have Colin Squires in Zone 4. Colin's responsible for the Buffalo River and Lake Buffalo. He's also responsible for the Upper Ovens River and tributaries above Myrtleford and Buffalo tributaries, and overall the Upper Ovens Water Supply Protection Area, which takes in all the surface water and groundwater resources above the Buffalo River confluence with the Murray, with the Ovens, sorry. We then move to Zone 5, which is Luke Friend. Luke's responsible for the Ovens River from Myrtleford downstream to Peachulbar and the King River and all the tributaries that run into those stretches. He's also responsible for the majority of the local Lower Ovens Groundwater Management Area and Lake William Hovell. We then have Wayne Clark, based out of Shepparton, in Zone 7A. Wayne's responsible for the Goulburn River from more or less Eildon down to the Yea River on one side and Eildon Alexandra on the other side, and all tributaries that flow into that stretch as identified. And he's also responsible for a number of specific zones in both the Upper Goulburn Groundwater Management Area and the Eildon Groundwater Management Area, and also Lake Eildon. Moving on to Zone 6, which is Tyson Shear, also based out of Shepparton. Tyson's responsible for all things Broken, so the Broken River, Broken Creek, the McCowan Pipeline, all tributaries that run into the Broken catchment, Lake Nilakudi and the Broken Groundwater Management Area. And finally, we have Frank Harding in Zone 2. Frank's responsible for the Murray River from downstream of Yarrawonga to the Goulburn River confluence and all tributaries to run into that stretch. He's also responsible for the Katunga Water Supply Protection Area and sections of the Shepparton Irrigation Region Water Supply Protection Area. So that's the Diversions East Services East team. Noel, I'll now hand over to my counterpart in the West, Dale McGraw. Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, Steve, and welcome, Noel. My name's Dale McGraw. I'm Steve's counterpart in the West, being the Diversion Services Manager for the Western area. The area I manage is primarily west of the Goulburn River. However, there's crossovers at certain points in regards to the operation of areas in the lower part of the Goulburn. I have 6 diversion inspectors in my team, and I'll now work through each of those with you to explain their operational areas, starting at the top and working clockwise. We've got Tess Wickham. Tess is based in the Rochester Customer Service Centre. Tess services customers on the Murray River downstream of the confluence of the Goulburn, which occurs just upstream of Echuca. She also assists with the Lower Campaspe Valley WSPA, or the Water Supply Protection Area, with the groundwater customers, and the lower end of the Campaspe River. So there's a little bit of a crossover with another diversions inspector there. Ben Ives. Ben is based out of the Shepparton Customer Service Centre. Ben services customers on the eastern side of the Goulburn River. He also services customers in the Strathbogie GMA and Mid-Goulburn GMA east of the Goulburn River, and all of the unregulated tributaries associated with the Goulburn downstream of Alexandra. Glenn Payne is a new member to my team, and he's based out of the Shepparton Customer Service Centre also. Glenn's recently transitioned from the GMID, the Shepparton GMID, and he's come across and been a valuable asset. Glenn services the customers on the western side of the Goulburn River. He also services the West Goulburn GMA groundwater customers and those in the Mid-Goulburn GMA west of the Goulburn River. We then move to Lindley Strawn. Lindley has earlier this year relocated from the Rochester Customer Service Centre to the Lake Eppalock storage office. Lindley services customers on the Campaspe River, the Central Victoria Mineral Springs GMA and the Lower Campaspe Valley WSPA, and she also looks after the Colaburn unregulated system as well, and the tributaries that run into both the Campaspe and the Colaburn River. We've got Peter Watson next, who's earlier this year also relocated from the Rochester Customer Service Centre to the Kankaran storage office. Peter services the areas of the Bullarook system, the Loddon Highlands WSPA, and also the unregulated tributaries, which there's numerous unregulated streams up in the Upper Loddon. And lastly, Dylan Ferguson has also relocated from the Rochester Customer Service Centre to the Kankaran storage office earlier this year. Dylan services customers on the Loddon River, the Tullarook Creek, and the groundwater customers in the Mid-Loddon GMA. So as you can see, each of the diversions inspectors have a mix of regulated, unregulated and groundwater customers they service. We cover a wide footprint in terms of 13 field-based operational staff that cover the whole of the Goulburn Murray water footprint. You'll notice that all diversions inspectors share the same contact number in the boxes on the slide. That's because they're generally out in the field, and mobile service isn't always that good because of the topography we work in. And we have a call centre that will direct those calls to the relevant diversions inspector based on your location, but also we can send it to backup people if we can't get hold of the person that you're chasing. That's basically the footprint that we cover, Noel. I'll now hand back to Peter Clydesdale, who will talk about the end of the presentation and also ask for any questions. So thank you.
Thanks, Dale. So just to finish off, to mention some useful resources, some websites for customers to use as they manage their operations going forward that provides them with some valuable information. And that's the BOM site. Local management rules can be found on the GMW site, as can information regarding rosters and restrictions. So I'd like to thank you for your attendance today.